For people that have been living under a brick as of recently, MrBeast has come under significant fire. The floodgates for this opened up when MrBeast's close business partner and friend Kris Tyson was cancelled for some more than dodgy actions they'd done, and since lots of stuff has been said against MrBeast, his brand, and Kris Tyson, with several employees of MrBeast coming out and speaking out against him in the business. A few streamers and content creators have been very lucky to talk some of these ex-employees like CamNuggets, who even played Fortnite with Dogpack404, one of the employees that came out about MrBeast, and Jake Weddle. And even one that's relevant to today's video is Larry speaking to Dogpack404 and Jake Weddle as well. Now, I'm somebody who hasn't been as fortunate to speak to some of these people. The only person I've spoken to is Jake the Viking when I thrashed him on Twitter and ratioed him into oblivion. So when friend of the channel Himbleton asked if I would like to speak to an ex-MrBeast employee, I could not say yes fast enough. What I didn't know is I would be speaking to CamNuggets and other popular content creators about MrBeast, Jake Weddle, and Dogpack404, and in today's video I'll be showing you the highlights of some of the questions that I asked and the conversations that we had. The video won't just be live stream clips from Himbleton, it will also be me chiming in to give context to what's actually going on in the situation and the current conversation. I appreciate Himbleton for allowing me to use some of these clips from his live stream.
So, does anybody, Spinling, Samuel, Romeo?
Yeah, man.
Now, whilst I might sound a bit nonchalant about it, I was absolutely frothing at the mouth that I would get the opportunity to speak to an ex-MrBeast employee. Now, my goal wasn't to ask about his situation, as Himbleton and others have done that significantly. I just wanted to ask a few simple questions about their thoughts on the recent coverage from Dogpack404 and people getting criticism for criticizing people coming out against MrBeast. I thought this was a good opportunity to ask a former MrBeast employee what their thoughts were surrounding people criticizing the people that are coming out against their former employer.
I was wondering because, like, you know, there are so many people coming out about their stories with MrBeast, right? People, like, saying that, like, clout chasers or whatever, all that stuff. But I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on, if you've seen it, the Dogpack videos, the Jake Weddle videos or whatever, and your thoughts on how people have constructed themselves. Because there's a lot of criticism around how people have been coming out towards MrBeast, especially as of recently, how people have been hypocritical, how it doesn't seem genuine or whatever. And what's your thoughts around the people that are coming out about MrBeast, his practices, his company, and all that sort of stuff?
So I'll be honest, I think it was pretty ballsy for the first couple people, especially Dogpack. I actually was, he actually mentioned, he showed my messages in one of his Twitter posts. I was the one that mentioned Kaylee in a text. I don't know if you guys remember that. But basically it was like me asking him, like, what is your, like, plan for the NDA? I assume he thought I was like a current employee just trying to get some info on him. I was just curious for my own sake. But yeah, I think it was pretty ballsy. I think it is a good thing that people are coming out and speaking their mind. I think that's what I think that's what social media was meant for, to give everyone a voice. I think the idea of clout chasing this is not like, I think that kind of takes away from people's opinions and thoughts and their experiences. So I don't like saying people or clout chasing.
Whilst I agree with this former MrBeast employee for the most part, I also do think that some people are clout chasing, like that guy that set up a GoFundMe for $1 million. I think there is some genuine clout chasiness there, even with Jake Weddle. This doesn't mean I'm discrediting everything these people are saying, I'm just saying that some people are in it for a quick, cheap buck.
Yes, there's people that are like doing like daily, like what's the one guy that's pretty famous for milking it right now?
More Pegasus.
Yeah. Like, I think stuff like that, like people who are doing that, I think they're doing the right thing by helping spread the word.
Again, this was something that I did actually agree with the guy on. There had been a lot of people criticizing people like Pegasus for their extensive coverage on the situation. But not only do I just respect, playing the YouTube meta and getting your grind in and making a bunch of money, but also as well there are genuine updates to be made here and people that are genuinely interested. It's not like people like Pegasus are milking something that isn't actually happening and giving out false updates. There are constant updates in this situation.
One of my things as well, like I've been publicly outspoken about this or whatever, especially with Jake Weddle, right, is I think he's a very hypocritical person. I don't think he's truthful with a lot of the things he says, especially like talking about that, like, oh, I'm going to earn all my own money or whatever, and then taking money from MrBeast or whatever, and then getting defensive over Christians about it or whatever. Do you think that some of the criticism against people like Weddle and Dogpack, when they're making these videos, and this criticism against how they're like, putting out this information or whatever, do you think that's valid criticism, that like people can also criticize Beast, but they can also criticize Weddle and these people that are coming up with information, because maybe they're not doing it in such a just way or a proper way? A good example of this is Dogpack's recent video. It has loads of errors and issues with it. It's pretty misleading. So like, do you think that it's a fair shake to criticize as well the people that are coming out against MrBeast?
Now, this is something I thought I should bring up, seeing as a lot of people have gone against people like Dogpack and Jake Weddle for some of the things they've said and how they've acted, but a lot of people like that have received backlash because apparently doing that makes you a MrBeast supporter immediately. Of course, we know that's bogus. You can criticize one person and also criticize the other person that's going against that said person. But I just wanted to see what this former MrBeast employee thought of this.
Do you think that's fair? Because there's a lot of people that are saying that, you know, you want to criticize the people that are coming out about MrBeast. That means, you know, you want to defend MrBeast or whatever. And that's like a very common criticism against people that are coming out against these people like Weddle or whatever. Do you think that that's a fair shake to criticize these type of people that are coming out about Beast?
Yeah, 100%. I think in any story, there's like 3 versions, right? There's the you story, the me story, and then there's the true story. So I think it's always good to play devil's advocate. I love responding to comments that I've had on my videos, like talking about the situation and telling me like, oh, I was in the wrong. So it's like, yeah, there's gonna be always 3 truths or 3 views to a story. And so I think criticism is very important.
Now, we had a small conversation after that question, but it was just basically rinse and repeating what I've just played for you, and shortly after that, they left the stream entirely. I'd highly recommend if people are actually interested in this former MrBeast employee and their story, you go and check out Himbleton's full stream, as that gives a way better coverage, as that's not what I'm focusing on in this video. But after that, I thought I was pretty much done with the stream after the ex-MrBeast employee left, and I thought I was just going to leave the stream. However, CamNuggets decided to chime in, and we had a pretty interesting conversation about him and Larix. After CamNuggets and Larix respectively spoke to Jake Weddle and Dogpack404, they had a little spat on Twitter where some people made some regrettable tweets and then later deleted them. And this is where the conversation would kick off between me, CamNuggets, and a few others on the stream.
That's unironically not true though. Why would you post something like that when it's false?
I just posted what I found on the internet.
You just look up things and you don't even research them, you just post the first thing that comes up.
That would be what I would ask, is that, like, did you do some research and reach out to other people when you found that? Like, I'm not saying that you didn't, by the way, whatever, just interested here. So when you found, like, all this stuff to do with Larix or whatever, because this is all public stuff or whatever, that's out there, his controversy out there, whatever. Did you then do an extra layer of research to make sure what you were tweeting out was correct and, like, you know?
Well, did Lyrics do any extra layer of research before accusing me of being schizophrenic?
Okay,
okay, come on.
Wait, can I speak?
One at a time, boys.
One person's mistake doesn't mean that you can then make the same mistake. And I'm not whatever, right? Like, I'm not saying what Larix did was fine or whatever, but like, if you found that, right, you should 100%, you know, verify that, make sure of it before you make a tweet like that. Just even if Larix did the exact same thing to you, right, you don't want to do it back because that's hypocritical.
Well, that's why we talk privately, and the messages have been deleted from both ends.
Yeah, but it just isn't a good look to say that. You know what I mean, right? I'm just gonna help you, right? Just like, you don't want to come across as hypocritical there.
I have no problem being a hypocrite if someone is going to do something first.
I don't have too much to chime in here with, apart from a clarification to make sure that people are aware, is that even before this stream, the tweets that we are talking about that CamNuggets posted and Larix posted respectively had been deleted. It spoke behind the scenes about this and then acted accordingly. The next clip starts where CamNuggets is talking about the research he did when he made this specific post on screen.
We can run in circles all day and be like, well, did he ask anyone if I was schizo? But, you know, again.
Well, but again, right?
It's a joke. That isn't an allegation.
Yeah, that's a slang term. Like, that would be like if I called you retarded right now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that, by the way.
To be fair, this was probably the least enjoyable bit of the stream. It was just arguing semantics. It makes for some pretty entertaining content, but it was just arguing semantics and about some recently deleted tweets. But I just wanted to include it to show a little insight into what the stream was about and the conversations that me and Cam were having. After this, it went straight back to MrBeast.
$1,000, no strings attached. I would definitely take it.
All right.
But at that point, my one thing with that, right, and Weddle, is that, you know, he's come out and said that, you know what, like, I don't want to accept money from MrBeast, right? Everything that I am from now on is going to be off my own back, which is fair enough, right? Nice thing to do. And then link your Patreon, whatever. Go for your grind. And then, you know, MrBeast reaches out, says, I want to give you the rest of the prize money, which was like 190 grand or whatever he owed him. And he's like, no, I don't feel comfortable taking that. I'm going to take 50 grand. You're going to take the money. You take all the money for one, right? Secondly, I think, you know, you made such a big public stink out of not wanting to take money, right? That, oh, I'm not going to take it, I'm going to earn money, and then you take money. I think it's pretty fair for people to criticize that and go, okay, well, hold on a minute, I feel like that's a bit hypocritical. Last week you were saying you're not going to take money, and now you've taken 50,000, right? I think it's fair for people to give criticism on that. I'm not saying that, he doesn't deserve it. I'm not saying that, I wouldn't take that money in his position or whatever. But if you've just made such a big public stink out of not wanting to take money, of wanting to earn money off your own back, in spite of Beast or whatever, because, he said that, like, the 100 grand...
For whatever reason, for the majority of the stream, Discord started dying on everybody's ends. It would just randomly cut out everyone's audio, so no one could hear what anybody was saying. It was pretty frustrating. Sometimes this happens, but to be fair, for the majority of my clips, it was alright.
But when Lyrics asked him about that, regardless if people think that was bad faith or how he phrased it, whatever, he was like, oh, well, like, don't you think I've earned this money? Don't you think that I've earned this money? If you don't think so, you can go suck a dick or whatever. I think his reaction to that, I know he said he was heated or whatever in the moment, I think it was a bad response to that, because I think people can genuinely criticize him for that. I think that's a criticizable thing that fucking Weddle did. I think that's a criticizable thing to call out him for. Regardless, if he thinks that or whatever, he thinks that people can go suck a dick for that, all good. But I think to sit here and say that isn't a criticizable thing, I think would be ludicrous, because, he said one thing and made such a big public stink out of it, right? No one forced him to say that in a video. If he didn't say that in a video, not many people would care, right? So, that's my, like, thoughts on it. I think he just made such a big public stink out of it. So then when he did take any kind of money, it just looked bad for him. It looked bad for his argument, regardless if he had lowered the money down to 50k. That's still 50k, right? That's still $50,000. That's still a lot of money. So yeah. I just think that, I think people can criticize him for being hypocritical, and I think that's a fair, logical argument to make.
I mean, I agree with you. It's a fair argument, but I can also understand the other side where, again, it's $50,000 he didn't have, and he doesn't have to silence himself. He can still continue to make videos.
You do understand that Jake Weddle is, like, not poor, right?
Now, this was a point I felt pretty passionate about. I just think Jake Weddle is incredibly hypocritical with a lot of the things he said in regards to money, saying that he wants to make money for himself and then taking money from MrBeast. A lot of what he said about money and MrBeast was just pretty hypocritical. If you're going to emphasize making your own money and then you take MrBeast, I think that is a criticizable point. As the conversation continues, I not only bring up Jake Weddle, but I also bring up Dogpack's criticizable points, like his most recent MrBeast video, which in my opinion was a pretty weak and bad video.
I think if you earned money or earned something, then you should get it, really.
Do you think he earned that 50k?
If he got it, I would say so.
See, there is so much criticizable stuff with Weddle. I think people, like I said earlier when I was speaking to that, like the other guy that was coming about, like MrBeast, and like, I think people just immediately go, okay, you're criticizing Dogpack, you're criticizing Weddle, you're criticizing whoever, right? And people immediately take it as, oh yeah, you're a MrBeast supporter, you agree with everything MrBeast has done, you ride like Kris Tyson's dick, right? That's what people immediately take it as, right? But people like Weddle, like Dogpack, right, regardless if a lot of the things they are saying are true and, need to be talked about, there's still criticizable things, right, that are there. Weddle has done criticizable things, right? I think you can criticize him for being hypocritical there with the money. I think you can criticize Dogpack for his recent video and for some of the stuff that he said and how he's worded it or how he's phrased it, right? I think there are criticizable things there, and I think it's important to give a fair shake. I don't think it's fair to just shit on MrBeast and then ignore these other people's hypocrisies or what they're doing, right? I think people need to give it a fair shake and criticize both parties equally.
Now, this is one of my main points during this stream, and something I elaborate on pretty heavily, but I also want to elaborate on it here. Whilst I think it's completely valid to shit on MrBeast for his shitty business practices, I also think it's fair if you're going to do that, to also then take a look at Jake Weddle, take a look at Dogpack, and the other people coming out against MrBeast, and making sure that they're not doing anything scummy either. Hold MrBeast accountable for sure, but also hold Dogpack and Jake Weddle and whoever else accountable for their actions as well.
Because MrBeast has done some scummy stuff, right? If what we're like seeing from all these content creators are true, but then we've also got to look on the side of these two people and everyone else that comes out and goes, okay, right, this doesn't make sense, right, this is a bit hypocritical or whatever, and give it a fair shake, right? I think not to give it a fair shake would be an injustice to what's going on at the moment and muddies the waters completely. That's why then when MrBeast does respond, he can go, well, they were actually like doing that, that's a bit hypocritical there, that's a bit of a lie there, whatever. And it's important as like a commentator or whatever, you've got a big platform now to, give it a fair shake on both sides, whatever. I think that's important. I think that's what people need to remember, because I don't think enough people are remembering that, just because like they're calling out MrBeast and MrBeast has done some wrong stuff, doesn't mean you can't also call them out for some of the stuff they're doing. And I think people need to remember that and remember to give the situation a fair shake on both sides.
I get what you're saying. I guess my main point would be, what is the point of trying to get this fair shake?
What's the point?
Like what is the end goal? So for example, like the people who are covering the MrBeast stuff, they want other people to know everything that's happening. You know, whether it's the Beast Game stuff, whether it's all the different employees, the different allegations, the insider stuff. They want
Hold on. Wait. What was your original question?
What's the point?
Basically, what's the end goal?
Point of trying to get like
end
goal of trying to get a fair shake about a situation?
Bear with me, as much as I've been saying a fair shake and whatever throughout this whole entire stream, I do believe that it is important to give a fair shake. It's just the moral and correct thing to do in a situation to make sure that both sides are being held accountable and the story is corrected. If someone does something scummy or hypocritical, that needs to be held accountable. If someone produces misinformation, that needs to be held accountable so the waters don't get muddy on whatever side. Whilst you might have criticisms for MrBeast and agree with some of the stuff that Jake, Dogpack, or whoever else is saying, you can also have criticisms for them.
Yeah, like for example,
is that a serious question? Like you genuinely don't?
Hey, hold on, Emma. Let him talk. Just let him talk. Just let him ask the question.
Basically, what I'm saying is, like, for example, you know, the commentary people like me, Quintheo, other people, our main goal is to eventually get to a point where MrBeast can come out and say something, or you know, be held accountable for the things he's done. You know, that's the end goal.
Just my thing there is, don't you think that, like, you know, if Dogpack says something that's wrong, or, you know, someone does something that's hypocritical, don't you think they also deserve to be held accountable regardless? The point of having a fair shake is that you can have a correct record, a timeline of events that are truthful and not filled with lies or hypocrisy or something else that muddies the waters.
Well, yeah, that's fair, but again, a lot of the discrediting in that situation is coming down to, you know, trying to discredit people's feelings, or like what they feel like they've earned, or past experiences that they have, what they say is trauma, you know.
I mean, you can say that there definitely are some stuff there, like what Lyrics was asking in his thing, right, to Dogpack and all these other people, right? Some of that was pretty bad, whatever. But then there are some actual criticisms, right? And even you've said that, you know, oh yeah, people can like say that, oh yeah, like Weddle was hypocritical there or whatever, right? People can have those criticisms. And I think it's fair to voice them and correct the record, have a fair shake on both sides, so that when you get to the point where MrBeast responding, he doesn't have an out for certain things, and people have a clear narrative of what's going on, so it's not muddied. That's why a lot of these situations where stuff like this happens, the waters get really muddy, because loads of people are saying things, people aren't correcting, people are just gunning for the main guy.
Now, whilst to still agree with my main point and my points that are being made there, I do want to correct the record in the sense of that MrBeast will still have an out if someone makes a weak video. Like the guy that wanted like $1 million from fans or whatever for a fundraiser, he can use that as a way out. He can also use other allegations that are maybe a bit more ludicrous against him as a way out, talk about how ridiculous they are and save the more damning stuff for later on in his video. What I meant more by that is just correcting the record as a whole so people know what's actually happening in the situation.
Where you want a situation where everything's corrected, right? Some things are always going to get through the cracks or whatever, but you want to do your best so the record is corrected to make sure you know what's actually happened there, right? He's done that, whatever. Say you did that, right? You want to then correct the record, make sure that's truthful, make sure that's verified, make sure that's correct, right? And then you look at MrBeast and go, well, he's also said this, which is a pretty valid criticism, but, you know, regardless if he has said this or whatever.
This is one of the other times where Discord just decided to shit itself for me. Discord really needs to fix their app, like, completely.
But I'm just saying that you want a fair shake of a situation to make sure the record's correct, make sure that that situation is the best it can possibly be. That's what you want, right? That's why a fair shake's really important. You don't want the waters to be muddied. That's not something you want in a situation like this. Especially to the scale it is. You don't want things that people can get out of, right? MrBeast doesn't want to be able to look at this situation and go, well, like he said that, that's going to be my scapegoat, right? You don't want that. You want the situation to be, like, coherent, right? That's why when people and commentators, right? Commentators are the really important bit here, is that, you know, they go, okay, well, like, he said that's not entirely truthful, but, you know, he's also this about MrBeast, which is, you know, he needs to be held accountable for. That's why a fair shake's important. Right, you might not think that in the grand scheme of things with, like, commentators, because they want, like, you know, you want MrBeast to respond or whatever, that a fair shake is necessary there, but I think it is, right? Focusing on these parts to make sure the story's correct, I think that's the really important thing. People are going to mess up or whatever, but that's just people in general, right? People are going to say things wrong or whatever, and that's completely fair and fine or whatever, but you still want to correct the record and make sure that, you know, everyone's given a fair shake and the situation is as fair as it can possibly be on both sides.
Okay, I guess that would kind of just go to the point of what we would consider a fair shake then. Because, you know, some people are not exactly fair when it's coming to talking to people like Jake Weddle or Dogpack, for example.
You just need to hold yourself accountable to both sides, right? You need to hold the same, like, oomph you have for MrBeast with these people that are coming out about MrBeast.
Definitely. I'm more than willing to understand critical points. You know, people looking into Dogpack and stuff, usually it's just not helpful when the same people who are trying to be like, okay, maybe Dogpack's a liar, and then 5 seconds later we'll like call him a schizophrenic retard, you know? So it's like when people do things like that, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so maybe these people again aren't giving him a fair shake, yet they want me to, you know?
But that's why that's important. Just because someone else doesn't give them a fair shake doesn't mean you shouldn't, right? That goes back to the point about going back to what you said earlier as well, right? Is that just because someone does one thing doesn't mean you should do the same thing, right? Just because Larix said you were a schizo, right, doesn't mean then you should then do the same thing, right? In the sense of, you know, doing the action that he did. If you get me right, you want to be able to do like the fair thing, right? Just because someone isn't given a fair shake doesn't mean you shouldn't give the fair shake. That's my point of view there. I just think
again, I'm all for listening to both sides. Like I think that I'm all for both sides. You know, if my chat, for example, is like, oh, do you think MrBeast's a pedophile? I'll just blatantly say no, I don't think so. I don't even think he's a bad guy. But if the allegations and everything coming out are true, then that does affect the judgment I see as him now, currently. You know what I mean? So that's the way I give MrBeast a fair shake, is that while I will make content covering what he's saying and doing, I won't, you know, be on the side of trying to make the people that are against MrBeast seem like psychos.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to listen. Like, if a lyrics makes a point that's good, I'll listen and be like, okay, I see what he's saying. You know?
Cam, it just sounds like, to me personally, what you're saying is that they have to like kind of take Jake Weddle 100% at his word.
Not at
and
all.
I mean, it kind of comes off like that because honestly, some of Lyric's questions, while some were bad faith, I will say some were valid critiques that a lot of people were questioning and a lot of people were looking into. I feel like a lot of people have been giving Jake Weddle just like a golden throne to just pass through, no criticism whatsoever. And I feel like honestly, Lyrics getting in that interview, while some of those questions were bad faith, some of them were valid questions that a lot of people were asking at the time. And even still are today.
This is something I'm really glad got brought up on stream, because after watching the original interview with Larix, CamNuggets, Dogpack, and Jake Weddle, I wanted to have a conversation about it. I think some of the things and how it was handled there wasn't quite on, and I think there was a lot to talk about. After what I just showed you, there was a bit more of a conversation there, but that was my involvement there, and that's where it sort of started to wrap up. Now the next bit that I want to show you is from my debate on my conversation with Quintheo, another commentator that's been covering this situation pretty extensively. Quintheo was discussing the MrBeast Devil Satanist thing, and I just decided to ask a few questions.
A lot of my more than 2 or 3 of my coworkers were like, dude, our manager is literally fucking Satan. Like that would, like I would be put off. And so
They're saying that figurative or literally, because I've got autism, I can't tell.
Oh, so like literally, like they actually thought that.
Well, that's retarded. If you.
But it's like these crazy people were working at the job, and it was more. And so it was like more playing to the fact that these people are looking at Jimmy, and they don't, like none of them can defend like a symbol, you know, like he's been doing those donations and stuff, but they're still like treating him or thinking about him in that aspect, as opposed to like, I don't know, if he was a more, you know, Mr. Congeniality, they wouldn't be thinking that. But it's speculative.
Sorry for cutting off. But whilst I agree with that, right, like, you know, a bit concerning or whatever, in the grand scheme of things, and you're a content creator, right, like, I think this was something Nicholas Doria said as well, right, is in the grand scheme of things, right, if you're a content creator that's been doing it for a while, right, you know what to include in the video, right, that people are going to listen to, right, you don't put that in a video because people are going to listen to and go, okay, why has he said that, right, what is the point of including that, regardless if it's a bit concerning that a bunch of people are going, oh my god, MrBeast is Satan or whatever, all that crap, right, you just don't put that in the video,
like
right.
calling someone, it's fucking like,
yeah, it's just
about.
Yeah, it just isn't
that's fair.
overly relevant. Like I get your point of like, oh, it's a bit concerning, right? And like, you know, these people are working at MrBeast or whatever. But at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, it just isn't really relevant, though. And it's just a bit, you know.
I think more so, and he cut it out, right? Like he did end up cutting it from what he did. I think it also just plays to, he's been cracking jokes, and like, I'm not saying that it's right or that it helps his argument. But for me personally, it's just like, well, it just lines up with who he is or how he's represented himself online over this. So like the like the cease and desist like compilation, like he's been throwing memes and like dumb shit in each of his videos. And if like someone like, you know, I can't speak to Nick Doria, I like popped into his stream last night at the very end, and I forced to address the most damning evidence.
I think it was a good thing that Dogpack cut that, right? Because from like an audience perspective, right? Let's say you're just like a regular person working a 9 to 5, right? You're sitting down, you're watching this incriminating piece on Jimmy Donaldson, right? And that comes up in comparison to everything else. People are going, okay, why have you included that? Right? It's a bit dumb, a bit stupid. I don't know why you've included that. And I think Dogpack made the right decision there to cut that out, right? It doesn't fit in the grand scheme of things. It isn't really relevant to include. And I think it just gives but MrBeast more ammunition to, you know, avoid
Yeah.
other criticisms against him. So I think Dogpack did the right thing of cutting out there.
For me, then it shows like a fact that he's going out of his way, like he's making the act of choice to remove things that he does think weaken the opinion. So at the very least, he's not perfect about it, but he's attempting it. And again, this is like one piece that has come out because it was on his Google Doc thing, but there could be like a plethora of things that he has not included because he's been trying at the very least to remove those, you know, things that are going to not be used.
Something I expand on later is, of course, Dogpack is a new content creator. His first few videos have blown up massively, and I wouldn't know what to do in a situation like that, so of course he's going to make a few mistakes. But I just found adding something like that in a video would be pretty ludicrous, especially considering all the other serious allegations.
Yeah.
And like, that's just more of, I guess, my opinion for like how I get into it and start, you know, looking at it and like with my critical thinking going, well, I think he's at the very least making the attempt to be more honest than not. And then it ends up being, okay, well, he's being a silly, goofy guy about it. Because like, we're going to look at that as normal, rational people and going, yeah, those people are batshit. But the fact that there's more than one at the company is like, okay, well, maybe this can like gently reference Jimmy's character. But you know,
well, like as much as I respect Dogpack for like going, okay, well, like this isn't relevant, whatever, and holding back on that, I still think he's missed the mark in some places, right? Especially like the last video uploaded, I think he missed the mark like massively. And I think from a general audience perspective, most people are going to go, okay, these people are just fucking crazy, and not look at it at MrBeast and go, okay, maybe at the most, I don't know why you've hired these people, bit funny, and move on. And that's the thing that most people are going to take away is this is fucking hilarious, rather than this is a damning point or something that needs to be mentioned. And I think that's what a lot of people took away when they found out that this was going to be a point in his video, is like, it's just a bit funny, right?
Yeah,
I think
with
that's
them, like, if someone to say to you what, like, all these allegations about, like, this guy's a scammer, he hosts, like, Kris Tyson, who people believe's a pedophile, and it's like, and then someone's like, yeah, his ex-employees are like, he's literally Satan, he's literally has horns out of his head, and it's a hard thing to debate, because I think any normal person would be like, that's incredibly stupid, what are you talking about? But these people, like you said, they're Christians, they believe that's a genuine thing that can happen, and then you'd have to debate fucking Christianity.
I mean, radical Christians, as opposed to like,
exactly, you know what I mean?
Right. I would say I think our largest disagreement comes from what we think the general population is thinking when it comes to this.
Oh, of course,
from my perspective of it, people are going, you know, are giggling that and kicking their feet going, haha, funny. Whereas like, I think that because we're so deep into it. Oh, sorry, what?
No, sorry.
Okay.
He's doing a little troll.
Gotcha. I think that like that's the mass disparity. It's like for people that like to have the discussion and like to say we need, you know, a perfect argument so that he doesn't push back. Like we care about that a lot more deeply than an average viewer of the content, I think.
Oh yeah, a 5-year-old's not going to be like,
the
what the fuck is this?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
On, yeah.
We're not going to get little 5-year-old Smaggle involved, are we? We're just gonna.
But I like Smaggle and I want to be his friend, so I don't want you to be mean to him.
True.
Oh, shut up, man.
On the same note as
what?
That, like, the general audience might not be sitting there going, okay, right, this is going to weaken the like argument against MrBeast, but they are going to be going, okay, this is just stupid in comparison, right? Like they have enough.
I agree.
Right?
So I disagree
you know,
with that. So that's our fundamental is like you look at people and they're like, oh, that's stupid. I think like generally what I've seen is like that's funny, and I recognize it as an attempt at humor more than it is an attempt at discrediting Jimmy. Like I don't think it like, oh, that's a moron take. I think that's probably like differing sides of the internet.
Like I said earlier, and that I elaborate in on the stream in a bit, is that when you include something like that and compare it to other allegations, even as a joke, people are going to focus on that way more because it's such a ludicrous thing to mention. People are going to focus on that way more, and it's going to draw attention away from the things you want people to actually be talking about. Could you imagine watching a very serious video on a bunch of allegations within the MrBeast workplace, and then one allegation is that MrBeast is Satan? It's going to take you right out of that video. You're going to focus on the most ludicrous thing there because it's pretty funny and it's just really out there.
Like my general like reception of this is that most people have seen this and gone, okay, this is dumb, a bit stupid, don't include this weakens the argument or whatever. And just from a general audience perspective as well, right, you're going to be watching this and going, okay, like in comparison to everything else you mentioned, right, it just is a bit of a weak point or whatever, like especially from an audience perspective, not even from a content creator perspective, right, you're just going to look at this a bit less favorably. So I think it's Dogpack's right decision to have removed that, right, regardless if it's a bit funny or whatever, because it just creates more more conversation around that than it does the actual other things at hand. Because like Spinning said, and like you said, right, about people generally believing it, right, is it just opens up a whole can of worms that you don't want to open in the first place, right, and takes away from the actual conversation at hand. So like it does cause just a lot more issues just in general, a lot more like decisive reception. So from his point of view, Dogpack's point of view, he's made the right decision removing it there. Because again, a lot of people are either going to debate it or people are going to find it funny.
Now that you're saying it again,
you know?
I think I just kind of was placating more with, like, how I felt about it, but I agree. Like, generally speaking, especially when it's claims like these, it's not good to do that. And I think that this is more like falling into like, and regardless of how much I defend it, being like, this is his personality, he's going for like a content cop style shit. Like he was wearing, you know, the thing, he did it in the second video. It doesn't mean that it's like directly benefiting him, and if at all it is negatively impacting him, at least for a portion of, you know, the people watching enough that that is what you guys are experiencing. I get a minority of that argument on my side, but like the fact that it exists so much on your side of it is showing that it is having an impact, you know?
See, that was just a few of my criticisms towards Dogpack in general, right? Especially with his latest video as well. Like I said, I think he missed a mark. I think his phrasing of some things were pretty off as well. And like I made it like an exaggerated tweet saying like some things were like incoherent or whatever, right? Like I think he made like some valid points or whatever, and I think he put some stuff across in a well manner. But at the same time, I think he did miss the mark with some of the things he was saying, how he was phrasing it, the lack of proof of some things. And I think whilst I think it's good the Dogpack has that initiative to go, okay, I'm not going to include this because it's going to muddy the waters, especially for the general audience, right? It's going to create way more issues for me. They're going to focus on that instead of focusing on the thing I want them to focus on. I still think that he needs to refine his arguments. I think he needs to refine a lot of things, and that just comes from him not being like a well-rounded, experienced content creator. I mean, these are just some of his first videos, right? Like, I would not know what to do if I was in his position, and my first few videos had millions of views like that. My third one had hundred thousands of views like that. I wouldn't know what to do as well. But I think he just needs to reflect a little bit more. Maybe I don't know what he's doing to like get things fact checked, in the sense of like, is he sending these videos to people to make sure that, you know, like, okay, yeah, this is a good video or whatever. But I think he just needs to take a little bit more time in that sense. And I know he wants to get the information out there, and I know he's taking his
Keep
time.
the momentum,
And I know he's taking his time with legal sides, like he said in the beginning of that third part, is that, you know, it's a bit of a legal issue and a hassle trying to get all of the SA allegations into one video. But I think he just needs to slow down a little bit if he wants the information to be received like in a better light. Especially last video, I think that was a great way of showing how people are receiving this. Because I mean, I saw so much criticism for that like last video that he'd produced, and I think he just needs to like slow down, think about what he's saying, how he's phrasing it, how is he putting it out there, and then moving on in that way.
I really like that, yeah, because it's like, I mean, I haven't really thought about it like this, but like Dawson is also actively making that attempt, and the argument, like the criticism is just like, take more time because you're new to this.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally fair. I guess I just never had it like, you know, propositioned to me like that. But I agree. Yeah.
After that, there was a little conversation before moving on from the MrBeast topic entirely. While that was well over 30 minutes with my interjections included, that was not well over 30 minutes in the actual stream. It was way more than that. I'd highly recommend for people interested in watching the full stream, wanting more conversation around this whole topic, go and watch Himbleton's full stream. I do appreciate Himbleton allowing me to come onto the stream to talk to the former MrBeast employee, CamNuggets and Quintheo. I feel like we had some pretty good conversations there, and if you do want to check them out, like I said, go and check out the stream, which is linked down below, and go and subscribe to Himbleton. And if you did enjoy today's video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to Samuel, me, and I will catch you in the next YouTube video.